Man, growing up and maturity is realizing that not all problems are your fault, but all of your problems are your responsibility to fix. You know those moments you have where it's just stacked against you. And I talk about controlling the controllables. These things are outside of your control. I think back to my younger years when I'd walk to school, walk up a hill. This hill was treacherous. It was a steep hill. And there are certain things that happen that are completely outside of your control. French class, we've been assigned homework, individual homework. You need to go away, you need to do this homework within a set amount of time because we've got another lesson tomorrow and I'd like you to present this to the class. What happens? Walking my normal route to school, torrential rain. Torrential rain. I'm talking to the point when your clothes are saturated with water. All the books in my bag completely ruined, finished. This is a problem. That is not my fault, but it's my responsibility. And I knew as a young kid, okay, ahead of my tutor, I'm going to let my teacher know, boom, boom, I'm going to go and try and dry the sheets out because I've got a duty. I've got something to do. This is my responsibility, whether it was my fault or not. And I don't know whether team sports can kind of prepare you for this because there's a certain level of accountability that you have when you realize you're playing team sports. There can be unfavorable situations. You can play your best game and you can still lose. I think that's important. I think, I don't have kids at present, but I think it's going to be important to instill certain values into them. How to be a team player, how to communicate, how to work with other people, but how to have that accountability when not everything's going your way. Sometimes you got to learn to win, sometimes you got to learn to lose. So, growing up and maturing, definitely all problems are your responsibility. As someone that's a leader and we want to be part of the leadership class and we want to be sovereign individuals and ultimately we want to be people that are free. You have to understand what comes with that. In this life, I strongly believe that you can have anything, but you just can't have everything at the same time. So, for you to believe that you want to be free, but have no responsibilities of anything that comes down to you, it's just unrealistic. I think these lessons teach me things, going through sports, that walk to school, getting torrential rain and knowing that this was not my fault. I've got to walk. Maybe my parents have obligations that day. This isn't when Uber exists. I've got to get there somehow. I've got to use my legs. One thing interesting that happens is when you take this accountability for situations that are outside of your control, when you adopt this mindset for situations that happen to you that are completely out of your control, it means that you can have a certain level of assertion over the behaviors and patterns that are within your control. Because now, if I understand that even if something unfavorable happens that is completely outside of, my scope to control, if something happens and it's on me, this is where you begin to realize this is the good and the bad, where you take the good and the bad. You take the accountability for the business going up, and you also take accountability for the business going down. Adverse situations. COVID-19 is happening. That's outside of my control. Okay, but because something's outside of my control, if I still take it with that level of responsibility as if it's within my control, now any adverse situation is treated exactly the same. It's me. Even as a kid, okay, I've had to walk to school in the rain. That's all right. The solution is my responsibility to fix. It's within my control. I still control the outcome of this situation. And It's something that is something that's available to all of us. I wish we just realized that rather than trying to attribute or, attribute certain downfalls to other people, take it onto yourself, take accountability. Because again, if you want the freedom, you need the level of responsibility and accountability that comes with it. That's only going to be unlocked when you take all these things and all these pressures into your own hands, and alleviating someone else's ability to control you and shape the way you think is the freedom. That's the freedom that we're looking for. We want to be financially free. We want to have location freedom. We want to be free from all of these things, but you're unable to be free from yourself. You've got to fix it. No one else is going to come and save you. Once you start to have that mindset and that ideology instilled into how you see everything, even the situations that are out of your control, you begin to take control of everything. Because then you can start to say, you know what? This happened, but that's my fault. I should have been prepared. Why didn't I have an umbrella? I should have been prepared. I should have checked the weather before. And then you see it flips. The victim mindset is saying, you know what? This happened. Oh no. I was waiting at the bus stop and then I got splashed. You should have been aware that the car was coming. Why did you not see the car coming? Oh no. I went out and then I got robbed. Why do you not have the capability to, or why would you put yourself in these precarious situations? Accountability goes back onto you. See everything through that lens. And even the most unfavorable situations, if you cannot come up with an idea of how you could have changed or altered that, you have to believe that it's happening for the greater good. You have to believe there's an element of this being divine and this being a necessary part of your process to become the right person. Because some things you will just never learn unless you go through it. Some elements of risk and understanding real danger, understanding that, okay, you can get pickpocketed, you can take a trip to Barcelona, you can get pickpocketed, will teach you. So now your level of security and your level of your awareness of your surroundings is increased. Okay, you've unlocked that level. Now you can go to a different place. You can go to a different place and you can be safe because you've learned that lesson. In the moment, it's long. Your bag's gone, your passport's gone. We've all been in these in predicaments where it's completely out of your control. The situation seems unfavorable. But then you have to ask yourself, even if this is not my fault, woe is me. It's definitely my problem to solve and my responsibility to solve. And these micro adjustments, I think I've had through, sports and through adverse situations growing up and where I've grown up and the environment I come from. I think the biggest flex is not looking like what you've been through. If you were to know where I grew up and the things I've seen and the things that have happened, you wouldn't expect me to conduct myself in the way I do. And that's the biggest flex. And that's something no one can take away. And that's the element of freedom. Because I feel like if you handle yourself in these situations, you have to wear the burden of the consequences of putting that constant strain on you. And the freedom is being able to release it so that these situations don't own you. Because people that have been through adverse situations, and I know you watching, you may have some adverse situations that no one will know that you've been through. They don't know what you've seen. They don't know what you felt. They don't know the depth of your traumas. And you show up every day and you don't let that define you. You're the winner. Like, that's how you win. That's what real winners are made of. They show up regardless. So yeah, that one really just crossed my mind. Like, I think, like I said, that's the biggest flex. That's the takeaway. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but the takeaway is not looking like what you've been through. I say all of that at the beginning to say, don't look like what you've been through. Yeah, bad things happened. Yeah, it wasn't your fault, but it's your responsibility to show up in a way that that your that your light eliminates it. Your illumination eliminates any darkness that you've gone through. You're just that bright. They can't seem to turn you off. They can't shut you down. They can't win. And it comes from those core beliefs and those fundamentals and the way you perceive yourself and the way you detach from ever being a victim. Can never be a victim. Can never be a victim because of the way you perceive yourself and the way you handle situations. Because when a challenge happens, when a challenge arises, you're ready. You're somebody that's prepared for it. That can affect you. You're not a victim. How can this affect me? Yeah, there's a problem, but I'm never going to be the victim in the situation because there's two dynamics. There's two dynamics that are always at play in this world. You know, there's the master, there's the slave, there's the pimp, there's the, you know what I'm trying to say? There's always going to be two dynamics at play. There's the aggressor and there's the victim. And in this life, you can honestly choose by the decisions you make or the frame on which you see the world through what side of the dynamic you're going to be on. So start taking control of it, relax. I know it's easier said than done. Breathe, okay? And really show levels for appreciation of the things that you do have whenever you find yourself in those situations. And just remember you're not a victim and you don't want to ever be one because we're built different. We're not here for that. We're not here to be victims. We're here to show up and we're here to win. Let's get it.